I think we're going to get started here, everyone. So if you are standing, great. If you are taking a seat, great. Good afternoon. My name is Adam Garber, and I'm the Executive Director of Ceasefire PA, the state's gun violence prevention organization. Well, thanks everyone for coming today. This morning, as I was driving up, I kept reflecting on the last time we gathered in Harrisburg all together. For the first time in a really long time, we had gun safety champions in charge of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, some who you will hear from today. We filled the Capitol from the East Wing to the Rotunda to the hearing in that room that day, and we watched and we hoped and we demanded. And some told me afterwards that nothing would change, that the NRA, Gun Owners of America, and other extremists were too powerful, that they would stand in our way. But they were wrong. And they were wrong because of you. They were wrong because of the survivors who said, no one should experience my pain. The doctors who said, I'd like to stop pulling bullets from my patients. The religious leaders who said, all faiths believe life is sacred. The gun owners who said, safety is a core obligation. The veterans who came back from a war to lose a friend to suicide. And the youth who said adults do better. I have to tell you that last one stings a bit because my own kid tells me I have two jobs in the world. Keep her safe and be silly. It's true. I can do a lot, but sometimes even parents need help. And every day I've gotten that help from you. From the tens of thousands of Pennsylvanians who've stood up and said enough is enough, from the astounding team at Ceasefire PA working tirelessly to make today happen. April, Becky, Beth, Brandon, Carol, Emily, Grant, Josh, Opiola, and Sarah. Oh, it's printed two-sided. From the volunteers who've shown up outside senators' offices, called their neighbors, and worked every day towards this moment. Our 60 co-sponsors, including the Pennsylvania Religious Action Center of Reformed Judaism, the Episcopal Diocese of Central PA, AMIR, Mothers in Charge, League of Women Voters, Physicians for Social Responsibility, American Federation of Teachers, and too many more to name. Here's what we've done together. Only one gun safety bill had passed the Pennsylvania House in the last 15 years until a year ago. 3 have passed since then. Extreme risk protection orders to give life-saving tools to family members to prevent firearm suicide. Universal background checks to ensure every AR-15 comes with a background check first. A ghost gun ban that will prevent shootings from untraceable firearms, like the one that took the life of Taylor in the Levittown the other week. But we're not done making historic gains. We're going to walk back in that Capitol today proudly and pass 2 more life-saving bills. No one should be able to attach a small device to a handgun and turn it into a machine gun that can fire up to 1,200 bullets in a minute. That's what House Bill 335 bans. And law enforcement needs timely information to stop the traffickers who are flooding our communities with illegal guns. House Bill 2206 modernizes that system for the state police, ending trafficking quicker. I wish I could tell you our work was done here, that when we go up and we celebrated Governor Shapiro's office as he signs the legislation, but you know better. Up until now, the Pennsylvania Senate has watched life-saving bills pile up on their desk. They've turned on the nightly news and said they are worried about gun violence and given us only thoughts and prayers. That's right. We don't want their thoughts and prayers of policymakers. We want their action. The bare minimum the Pennsylvania Senate can do is hold a hearing of experts, survivors, law enforcement, faith leaders, doctors, nurses, and more. And if they want to save lives in communities from the Philadelphia suburbs to the South Hills of Pittsburgh to the shores of Lake Erie, they should vote on these bills. If they want to stop the murders of our children and friends in York and Harrisburg, Philadelphia, and Pittsburgh, then they better talk about supporting laws designed to keep firearms from those who want to hurt others. If they know of someone in crisis from the Poconos to the coal country of Bedford County that turned to a firearm in that moment, they better step up with interventions to give that person the help they need. And we're not going to stop until they do, because we know that every day goes by, we lose another son, another daughter, a sister, a brother, a father, a mother, a friend, a coworker, and we don't have to live like this. We won't live like this. We have so many allies in this fight, and it's so great to have them with us today. I would love to introduce, first up on the allies of many of them, and we're going to start with the elected officials because they got to get back inside for some votes. Senator Costa.
Right here.
Awesome. Perfect. Senator Costa.
Thank you all very much. Good afternoon now. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Ceasefire, for bringing so many wonderful folks together and all the organizations, the faith-based organizations, the community organizations, individuals who came here to be advocates, continue to be advocates for this very important mission that collectively we are on. As we go forward, we have to continue this advocacy, this fight. As was mentioned earlier, in 15 years we had one bill pass. But you know what? Something happened last January. Democrats took control of the House, our House Democrats. And you'll hear from many of them today. You'll hear from my colleague next. My colleague, Senator Shree Street, who's here with us today, recognized that we now need to do our part over on the Senate side. It was mentioned now there are 3 bills on the Senate that we have to work with. 3 important.
Senator Carney.
And Senator Tim Carney's here as well. I apologize. But thank you, Tim. But my point is this very clearly. We have our work to do. Your advocacy here today, when you go back into the building, to make sure that the folks that we need to meet with, our Republican colleagues who have stymied every effort that we tried to do to advance these measures, whether it was trying to do an amendment to a bill along those lines when they tabled them, whether it was a discharge petition to try to get the bill dislodged from a committee, they tabled them. We have to stop tabling measures. We have to advance these measures. And it was mentioned earlier, at a minimum, what we should be doing is having a conversation about the impact that's taking place along these lines, the impact that the lives it's impacted. You know, my colleagues in this building are always want to talk about our veterans and how wonderful our veterans are, but they're not doing a damn thing to help protect all those veterans who have access to weapons to commit suicide when they're in a time of crisis. That's why we need an emergency risk protection order piece of legislation across the desk of the government to protect so many families and so many individuals. The other measures, the ghost guns we need to talk about, a universal background check, things that people in this Commonwealth want, whether you're a supporter of the NRA or a Second Amendment rights person, they recognize, they know we need to take these steps. We need to make sure our colleagues in the Senate Republican leadership of the caucus need to take steps to be able to move that, because everyone deserves to be safe in their community. Everyone needs to be able to take steps to be able to protect their loved ones in a moment of crisis. Everyone needs to know that this access to weapons is not going to be as freely done as we know it today. So your advocacy here today, as I mentioned earlier, has made a difference because you elected great House representatives. My hat's off to Speaker McClinton and Leader Bradford, the tremendous work that she and him and the House Democrats have done advancing these measures. And you heard today, they're not done. There's more work that needs to be done. But now the onus is on my colleagues and I in the Senate to take the steps necessary. The way we do that, I will take 30 seconds of political speech here and say, listen, we need to elect more Democrats in the Senate. 3 more Democrats in the Senate. And you've got my commitment, my pledge. If Senate Democrats are in charge of the Senate, these measures will be on the Senate floor the first week in Harrisburg, and we will be there every single day voting on these measures until we get Republicans to join us. Thank you for being here. The fight's not over. Go back inside when we're done here and keep up the advocacy through November and into next year. Now, it's now my honor to introduce Representative Morgan Cephas.
I feel like we're missing a chant. Can I hear you say fight? Fight! Let's hear you say fight! Fight! I want to thank all the advocates for joining us today. I want to thank Reverend Holson from 57 Blocks Coalition. I want to thank Shantae Love from Every Murder Matters. I want to thank every single person that is up here from Ceasefire PA, because we understand, back in the city of Philadelphia, to date, we have seen 89 homicides. Let me hear you say fight. Fight. Let me hear you say fight. Fight. Every single day that we do not do our jobs up here in Harrisburg, we will see murder after murder. We will see shooting after shooting. And it doesn't just impact the individual victims. It impacts our communities. It impacts our families. So we got to make sure that we fight. 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 Make sure we fight. Fight. Because we know here in the House of Representatives as Democrats that we are doing our job. And I have so many of my colleagues that are joining us. But one of the only reason why we have our chamber is because of you. It is because of you coming up here year after year to the people's house, to your house, to where you pay taxes, you pay our salary, and you demand change, and you demand that fight to happen over in the Senate. So let me hear you say fight. Fight. Let me hear you say fight. Fight. Now, one of the opportunities that I had to do is work on ghost guns with State Representative Malcolm Kenyatta, and we were able to collectively send that bill over to the Senate. We want to see guns like ghost guns, guns that are able to be purchased online with a credit card by anyone, guns that do not require a background check, guns that do not require a serial number, that go untraced, that are getting in our students' hands, that are getting in the wrong hands. We want to see this bill enacted, and that is going to take the fight from this group. So can I hear you say fight? Fight. Can I hear you say fight? Fight. And I am going to get political because we need some more Democrats in the House. Don't forget about us. I know they need them over in the Senate, but we need them over in the House. And then when we have them over in the House, we will be able to get more work done on gun bills, send more work over to the Senate to make sure that they do their job. But we're not going to be able to do it without you. So I can hear one more time. Let me hear you say fight. Fight. Let me hear you say fight. Fight. Now with that, I'm going to turn it over to State Representative Sanchez.
Go ahead and fight, Ben.
All right, Ben.
You hear that fight, Ben?
Do your thing, man.
Well, yes, tough act to follow. Great job, Rep. Cephas. Thank you for your advocacy. This is amazing. Amazing day to be here. We've stood here in the rain when we've faced defeat, faced not even having hearings, and this is a beautiful thing. I've been getting dirty looks all week from Second Amendment people, so it has been so nice to see all of this sea of orange here today. Thank you all. Thank you all for being here. This advocacy matters. We are moving the needle no matter what happens in the Senate, but Jay Costa's going to get us there. Right, Jay? And I just want to say, House Bill 335, you want action. You want action, right, Adam? You said you wanted action,
yes.
And we're going to fight. We heard we want to fight. House Bill 335 will ban machine gun conversion devices. These are bump stocks and Glock switches, these little modifications that sidestep the definition of machine gun that have been banned in our country for more than 100 years, but find that loophole and should have just no place in a civilized society. So we are going to pass that today with your support in the House of Representatives and tee it up and let the Senate show us that they want machine guns or they don't want it. They can show us where they stand. Thank you so much. And with that, I'm going to introduce State Representative Anthony Bellman, who's got another great piece of legislation today.
I like that, Rep. Cephas. Everybody say fight. Fight. Try it again. Say fight. Fight. My name is Anthony Bellman. I'm the state representative for the 203rd Legislative District, and I've been serving in the Pennsylvania House for about 15 months now. But I've been living in the city of Philadelphia pretty much all my life, and I'm telling you, it's way too easy for young people to get their hands on illegal guns. It is way too easy for young people to get their hands on illegal guns. And when I came to the House, I found out that a part of the problem was paperwork. Paperwork. And that's what this bill 2206 seeks to address. It modernizes something that already happens, but to make sure that we do it electronically. Now, there are some people on the other side of the aisle that seek to say that this is a registry, and they want to scare people, and they're saying, no, we can't vote for this. Let me make it clear. 2206 already happens. It's already being done, but we want to modernize it. There should be no reason that young people get their hands on illegal guns because of paperwork. So while we're here today, make sure everybody on my side of the aisle and the other side of the aisle vote yes. Everybody say vote yes, on 2206. Try it again. Vote yes, on 2206. Thank you.
Great job, Rep. I'm Tim Briggs. I'm the chair of the Judiciary Committee, and it's an honor to be here today. Real quick, and Adam always says I talk too long, but real quick, we got Rep. Rab here, member of the committee, Rep. Hohenstein, we heard from Ben, Representative Scott, Joanni's here, Representative Malagary, Representative Venkat, Representative Borowski right in front of me, Gerald Brennan, I'm going to get in trouble. But we started a year ago on day one with the hearing, and we haven't stopped fighting since. We keep moving these bills, more bills. We're going to keep advancing legislation. As long as you all have our back, we'll keep doing that job. If we win more seats, we'll even do more, so we have that to task. But I have an important job that I'm going to read this because it's very important to get this right, because the way we can do our job is by all the stories that Ceasefire has put together. The leaders and survivors you're about to hear from next, and all of you are critical to making that happen. It's my honor to introduce Pastor Adam Morena from West Kensington Ministries. Thank you.
Greetings, my name is Adan Mairena. I'm the pastor of the West Kensington Ministry in North Philadelphia. And as a faith leader, you see many of us out here, right? Oftentimes, the criticism we get is prayer is not enough, right? Prayer is not enough. That's what we often get. But look at these folks in collars. Look at our Jewish brothers and sisters. Look at folks of any faith that are here. And we are here to claim, to affirm, to declare that gun violence is a moral issue, that it is our moral obligation to end it, that life is sacred. In Christianity, we have a famous Bible verse that many of you know that says faith without works is what? Dead. Faith without works is? Dead. Faith without works is? Dead. So we are here to reclaim life, the sanctity of life. And that's what we're here to do. And I'm honored to be a board member of Ceasefire PA. And I'm here to introduce some friends and some colleagues. And we are beginning first with Cantor Calix Jacobson from Temple Emmanuel of the South Hills.
Good afternoon. Thank you, everybody. Judaism as a religion is built for this world. Jews are told by our sages and by our Torah about how to be the best people we can be on earth now. We are not preoccupied with what comes next once life is over. In fact, I don't think you'll find two rabbinic authorities who agree on this topic. Instead, we are told in Deuteronomy 30:19, I have put before you life and death, blessing and curse. Therefore, choose life. We as Pennsylvanians from across the state are today choosing life by telling our lawmakers to prioritize gun violence prevention bills, such as extreme risk protection orders, universal background checks, safe storage, and addressing ghost guns, illegal homemade machine guns, and gun trafficking. We are asking for all of these measures and more. By choosing as a state legislature not to pass bills such as these, our government is predetermining that innocents among us will die. This is inexcusable. Right. In addition to this commandment to choose life, Deuteronomy 28:8 tells us to put a railing around the roof of our house, lest an innocent person fall to their death. Today, all of us here are asking our representatives for a similar measure of harm reduction. We cannot allow even one more life to be taken. We cannot allow even one more family to be destroyed. Act as if your life depends on it, because it does. Legislators of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, I implore of you to choose the lives of innocent people in your district. I implore of you to put a fence around the real and present danger in our midst. I ask of you to move swiftly and thoughtfully towards a better world in Pennsylvania. Lech lachem, go forth. You must use your power to usher us forth to a world where you make the name of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania great, that each of you may be a blessing to your constituents, to all the people of the United States. Now I'm pleased to welcome Sister Sarah Crotty to the stage.
We have a slight schedule change, but thank you, Cantor. Lieutenant Governor Davis has been able to join us. He has been a leader in the fight to end gun violence really since he was a youth. And we are honored to have him here with us today because we know that he and the administration are ready to save some lives. Lieutenant Governor Davis?
Thank you. Are you all fired up? Yeah. Are you ready to build a safer Pennsylvania? Yeah. Well, I'm here to say that every Pennsylvanian should have the freedom to both be safe and feel safe in their community. We can't thrive as a Commonwealth if we aren't delivering on that basic need for safety and security. Look, addressing gun violence is a top priority for our administration. It's the very issue that first brought me to public service. And I want to be clear, this is not just a Philadelphia problem. It's not a Pittsburgh problem. It's a Pennsylvania problem, and it's uniquely an American problem. But friends, it is one that we can and must do something about. Our administration is taking a comprehensive approach to addressing the epidemic of gun violence here in Pennsylvania by supporting law enforcement to do the difficult job they've been tasked with doing, providing resources for community-based organizations doing the work on the ground, providing more resources for mental health, addressing the root causes of gun violence. The Shapiro-Davis budget includes $100 million to fight the epidemic of gun violence and make our communities safer. Passing our budget is a good start, but we also need action from our legislature to keep firearms out of the hands of dangerous criminals and young people. It's time that the General Assembly act. The State House, under the leadership of my friend Speaker McClinton and Leader Bradford, has taken action. They've passed common sense gun safety legislation with bipartisan support. They brought Democrats and Republicans together to make our communities safer. Now, I'm calling on my colleagues in the Pennsylvania State Senate to listen to your constituents and take up these bills now. Put them up for a vote, pass them, and send them to Governor Shapiro's desk so we can sign them and get them into law. The families of those who have lost loved ones are counting on us to get this done. Pennsylvanians are counting on us to get this done. Thank you for all bringing here, raising your voices, and standing with us as we fight to make Pennsylvania a safer Commonwealth for all of us. Let's work.
Good afternoon. I am Sister Sarah Crotty, a sister of St. Joseph of the Roman Catholic tradition, living and ministering in Beaver County in the far western part of the state. The massacre of the children in Uvalde, Texas was my last straw. Why it wasn't Sandy Hook or Buffalo or Pulse or Columbine or Parkland or Las Vegas or Charleston or the many killings that take place every day without national attention across Beaver County, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Harrisburg, Erie, Scranton, I don't know. What I do know is that as a Christian woman, I must do my part on behalf of my suffering sisters and brothers. We do not have to live with the sin of gun violence. No other developed country in the world lives like this. That's right. Informed by the gospel I have staked my life on, I have witnessed and I believe that violence and the abuse of power fractures human relationships and diminishes human dignity. We Sisters of St. Joseph have committed ourselves to live nonviolently and to work to transform structures that promote violence. Indeed, for those of us who call ourselves Christian, we do not have a choice. We have been given a mandate to live an example of nonviolence as a way of life in all we do, say, think, and feel. Our incarnate God lived a radically nonviolent lifestyle. We have an absolute moral, ethical, and gospel mandate to eradicate gun violence. It can be done, and it must be done. The Christian Bible, from Genesis to Revelations, is our story, and that story tells of one family, one creation connected in spirit and truth through the love of God who made us, each and every one, sister and brother to one another. We are to do to one another as we would do to Jesus himself. We are to act as did the Good Samaritan, who stopped and did something about the suffering in his midst. Because of the scourge of gun violence, there is suffering by the side of the road every single day. As a person of faith, I cannot turn away. I have a mandate, a gospel imperative to do everything I can to assist those suffering in my community, my state, my country. I ask all people of goodwill to do the same. But here we are talking again, when it seems that no amount of words or killing or trauma and pain will move the powers that be to action. However, in Christian Hope, I humbly beg my and all elected officials, anyone with the power to help reduce gun violence, to do so. As believers, nothing less is demanded of us. I now introduce Reverend Matthew Best.
Late at night on April 17th, just a couple of weeks ago, a human being was shot and killed in the alleyway behind the church that I serve here in Harrisburg. This is a person who had a story, a life, loved ones, much like the pictures that I see here. And for our congregation, gun violence isn't an abstract topic of debate. It impacts the lives of our congregation and our community. Gun violence like this produces trauma and despair when what is needed is robust shalom, a living peace that provides wholeness and a beloved community that cares for one another. In America, we seem to never have a shortage of funds or willpower to protect the ways of violence, to wrap those in the flag and claim that these are the ways that guarantee freedom and peace. Instead, they're lies of an ideology that is holding us hostage at gunpoint and costing us lives. How many more people need to be sacrificed at this altar before we see the false god for what it is? Lutherans, of which I'm a part of, in Pennsylvania have been working with the Interfaith Campaign with one voice because we recognize that gun violence can only change when we work together. On April 13th, just a few days before the shooting near the church I serve, our national church leadership passed a social message on gun violence and trauma. And it's a document grounded in Scripture, and part 1 starts this way. Christians are called to be peacemakers. When Christians make peace, they respond in faith and gratitude toward God's sovereign promise of a world where violence and trauma are no more. God's resolve for peace through steadfast love calls all people to do as God does, to ever strive for peace through love of neighbor. Being a peacemaker isn't about avoiding conflict in favor of some kind of false comfort for some. It's about a peace lived out now, a robust shalom. It offers a way to live which is far better than the reality that we experience today, a reality in which far too many of our neighbors and fellow citizens have their lives cut short. In Paul's letter to the Romans, he wrote, "Let us pursue what makes for peace and for mutual upbringing." I would say that these bills are moving us in that direction. Peace isn't a destination that we arrive at sometime in the distant mythical future. Rather, peace is a way of living now, and we have a responsibility to move towards it. It's what it means to be faithful disciples of the Prince of Peace. And finally, peace is how we heal as a nation, as a commonwealth, and as a community that has been traumatized by violence for far too long. Thank you.
Thank you.
If we were allowed to allow the survivors of gun violence, every single one of them, just for the last year to speak for a few minutes, we'd be here all day. We lose people, many who are friends and family, in every part of the Commonwealth. In our cities, we use it. In urban areas, we often lose it to homicides and shootings. In our rural communities and throughout the state, we lose people to a moment of crisis when we lose them to firearm suicide. Each one rents a person from our family, from our home, from our community, and it's a hole that cannot be filled. And I hope that our elected officials will take the time, if they have or haven't, to sit down with their constituents and listen to them what they would like to hear. We've invited 2 of the survivors to share with us a little bit more about what they would like to have happen. I would like to invite up from someone from my own neighborhood in South Philadelphia, Karen and David Elliott. Karen Yust and David Elliott to speak first.
Hi, this is my husband, David, and we're residents of Philadelphia and the parents of 21-year-old Dakota Ryan Elliott, whom 8 months ago died because of an unsecured handgun. Dakota was a humanitarian, an animal advocate. At 6'2", he was the type of individual to help others get items off of high shelves at the grocery store. He had been a Boy Scout since the 2nd grade and became an Eagle Scout in 2021. When he made shelters and feeding stations for the Philadelphia Police Department's impound lot for the stray cats that the officers took care of. He had been attending college and was excited that he had only had 4 classes left to get his degree in IT. A self-taught handyman, there wasn't anything he couldn't fix. We would often say, just give it to Dakota, he can fix it. From computers to carpentry, there was no limit to his abilities. At the time of his passing, Dakota was actively looking for employment and had been eagerly awaiting an upcoming family trip to Las Vegas to celebrate his recent 21st birthday. During the summer of 2023, Dakota met a girl and had an on and off again relationship with her. On September 6, 2023, Dakota had been online waiting to join a scheduled game with a friend. During the 20 to 30 minute window before the game started, Dakota had decided to reach out to the girl and her friends. However, he discovered that he had been blocked, and he frantically ran up the stairs to the front bedroom where his grandfather kept a loaded, unlocked revolver and shot himself. Our son was in a momentary crisis. Excuse me. Mostly over a girl, and had the gun been locked, he would have time to calm down and would still be here. My husband often says to me our son had a moment of weakness. Who amongst us haven't made a mistake when we were upset? His just happened to be one he could not come back from. Our son was not mentally ill. He was suffering from a broken heart. So many forget that people can hurt themselves over anything. Look at the great economic recession of 2008, when the financial and housing bubbles burst. So many people chose to take their lives just because they had lost what they thought were their livelihoods. Many chose the same way our son did. And history makes no mention of all of those people being mentally ill. Sometimes tragedies happen just because we are in crisis, cannot calm down, and the carelessness of other individuals. Dakota had a bright, beautiful, productive future ahead of him, and because of a firearm that was not safely secured, it was all over in an instant. There are very few things left that we can do for our son, but I hope that by bringing Dakota's story to your attention, my son will not have died in vain and other lives can be saved. You do not have to be a minor to get hurt by or hurt yourself with a firearm. You just have to be in a moment of crisis. And a crisis can happen at any age over anything. Don't let Dakota and countless others be forgotten just because they were not minors. We don't need any more victims of irresponsible gun owners. What we need is a law in PA that requires that if you own a firearm, then you have to safely secure your firearm when not in use.
Amen.
Thank you for your time, and our next speaker is Max Ann Gooden.
Good afternoon, everyone. I stand here today as the voice for so many mothers that have lost children innocently to gun violence. I stand here today as a voice for the voiceless, for those that can't speak because of the pain, and for those that are no longer here, and for the communities I serve. But most of all, I stand here as the mother of Jason Ahmad Patton, whose life was innocently taken November 25th of 2017 in this very city during Thanksgiving break while visiting his sister on his dad's side. His portrait is one of many that are on display from the Soul Shot exhibit in the Capitol. So please go take a look at it. Jason was a ray of sunshine. When Jason was murdered, he was 18 years old. He was a boys Latin student. He was on his way to college. He had a 3.5 GPA, but because of someone that was on parole and was not even supposed to have access to a gun, took my son's life on the day that he was celebrating Thanksgiving and celebrating also getting into numerous colleges. So many lives are being taken due to easy accessibility to guns. We have to become stricter on gun laws and those that abuse them. Babies as young as 2 are getting maimed or killed by an unsecured gun or by being caught in the crossfire of a gun that was a straw purchase or by a ghost gun. I can't help but wonder that my son would still be here if gun laws were stricter and our legislatures and community really started being held responsible. We have to do better, because if not, the bloodshed is on our hands and innocent lives will continue to cry out from their graves, and families will continue to be in grief, and communities will remain traumatized with no hope. I turn my pain into purpose by doing a lot of work that I do in the community and a lot of offices that I work for to help our community to heal. We all have the power to change what's happening if only we would use it. I now bring to the podium Commissioner Michael Muldrow. Thank you.
Thank you so much for allowing me a moment to have a few words here today, to take this opportunity. Across this state and this nation, in communities like yours and like mine, we're seeing a rise in gun violence, an increase in bullet casings covering our streets, sidewalks, and playgrounds, and an ever decreasing age of the individuals that are committing these violent crimes. And why? Because more and more, our young people are turning to firearms to solve their problems, rather than their parents, rather than our system, or trusted adults, counselors, coaches, and mentors. And all the while, the guns they're getting a hold of are getting bigger, shooting faster, becoming easier to find, and harder to track. See, I've been wearing this badge and doing this job for a long time, but never did I imagine being up against things like ghost guns, 3D printable weapons, high-capacity magazines, military rifles in our streets, and these little things called switches or auto sears. Let it be known it took an act of the federal government to stand here with this today, but our kids can get a hold of it on the internet. Items that can easily turn a handgun, a weapon, into a weapon of mass destruction. So leaders, I'm here today to plead with you to make decisions that matter to our families, choices that keep our kids alive, and take action that truly helps make our neighborhoods the safe place we say we want them to be. That's right. I'm here today to speak up for people who want to fall asleep in peace, for parents who want to live without the fear of burying children, and passionate community servants like all of you that are weary of the fight, weary from holding our breath between rounds while we wait for the next thing to happen. People like me who work in your schools, in your neighborhoods, serving and protecting on the streets of PA, playing by the rules on uneven playing fields, outmanned, literally outgunned, and struggling against the odds. Noting, over the past 3 years, we had 51 occurrences where ghost guns, untraceable, illegal firearms, were used or confiscated in York alone. Noting, just 2 years ago, thanks to a special investigation by a team of ATF agents and detectives from York and Harrisburg, officers were able to shut down a pipeline, stop a large load of ghost guns, 40 in fact, headed to the streets of York, Harrisburg, Lebanon, and Lancaster. Just imagine how devastating the ramifications would have been in South Central PA had that one shipment reached its destination. And yet, each and every day, knowing what we're up against, men and women across PA continue to show up and fight. And all we ask of our leaders and legislators at all levels is to listen. Listen and do all you can to help in this fight. At this point, with our body count growing each day, there should be no partisan divides, not when it comes to gun violence or keeping kids alive. This should be a time for collaborative conversations that we're all rushing and ready to have. See, I agreed to be here today in this place on these steps to help make this call to action because I know what's happening back in communities like mine. We saw great results in York, but it came at a great cost, one that we can't sustain without their help and support. Now we need them to get involved. We need them to take action and take extreme ownership and acknowledge this for what it is, a public health crisis. We need common sense legislation, new standards, and sustainable funding that helps address the ever-increasing presence of ghost guns in our neighborhoods, cracks down on stalled purchases, people that are making a business out of peddling death, gives our communities the mental health supports that we need, provides mandatory conflict resolution at curriculum in our schools, and invest in the creation of a better way of addressing juveniles and holding them accountable in a more restorative way. So lawmakers, leaders, and experts, like so many of us back at home in communities all across Pennsylvania, I've given my time, I've given my energy, and I would proudly, gladly give my very life to help keep my neighborhood safe. But now we need help to make things better. And I'm convinced if we prioritize the problem and commit to doing the work, better is truly possible. Thank you, Ceasefire, for the opportunity. Now it gives me great pleasure to introduce another champion from right up the road, the incomparable Mayor Paige Cognetti of Scranton, PA.
Commissioner, you do an incredible job in York. Us mayors work a lot together. My story of being mayor is about two phones, because I'm a mayor, it's my city phone, and I'm a mom of two little girls. I have these phones with me all night, all day, and sometimes this phone rings and it's another shooting. All too often, this phone rings and it's a shooting of a child or an innocent person or a police officer. It's been happening more and more, especially this year. This year, this phone rang on January 10th at 4:45 a.m. A juvenile had shot one of our detectives twice in the head. Detective Gilmartin has made a miraculous recovery. But those guns are still in the streets. Our kids are still joining gangs. They still think it's cool to wear an ankle bracelet. They have access to guns that they shouldn't have access to. There was a man that shot a father. He was going to marry the mother of his child the next morning. He shot him dead in a Sunoco gas station 2 months after they shot Kyle. He was mentally ill. He had no business having a firearm. When you look at the polling, this is not a partisan issue. 80, 90% of Americans agree that background checks, they're okay, they make sense. Safe storage, they make sense. It doesn't have to be this hard. Reporting lost and stolen, not that hard. And actually, to the benefit, if you report lost or stolen, of the gun owner, the responsible gun owner, because if your gun is used in a shooting, you're going to want to have made that call. These are just common sense things. It does not have to be this hard. Our Pennsylvania Senate has got to step up. And as a mom, every single person in this country is either a mom or a dad or a grandparent or a parent or a sister or a brother worried about their kids in school every single day. We keep our phones by us in every meeting just in case. We wait. It's Teacher Appreciation Week. The teachers, they wait. They get trained and they wait for that moment when there's an active shooter and it's in their school. This is not the America that we should be living in. So as mayors, we are so grateful for the work of Ceasefire. We are grateful for the PA House of Representatives and Governor Shapiro and Lieutenant Governor Davis, but we've got to keep pushing the Pennsylvania Senate to act. This is not that hard. I don't want these phones to ring like that ever again in my life. With that, I am very, very honored to meet someone that I have seen running around here. She is working very hard for this event and for this cause, Ms. Kayla Waddington.
Hi, my name is Kayla Waddington, and I'm from West Philadelphia. I'm a senior in high school and Ceasefire's newest board member. Ceasefire has decided to vote me onto their board because, unfortunately, they realize that this gun violence epidemic has had its largest toll on youth. At a time when I was supposed to be preparing for prom, doing college apps, getting ready to move on to college, I had to spend the year fearing for my life and fighting so that no one in my community ever has to die from gun violence again. Tragically, as I start my journey to adulthood, I must still pass this fight on to kids who are younger than me. This is why we have this banner. It represents the many ways that youth in Pennsylvania are affected by gun violence. Each colored handprint means something different. Orange, if someone has lost someone personally to gun violence. Yellow, if someone has been shot at, or has survived a gunshot, or even if they just feel a sense of unease and danger in their community. And purple, for all the youth here who want to see change. This is such a big issue that we had students sign it who weren't even a part of Ceasefire. There are so many groups here with children here today who decided to do the handprint. Youth across Pennsylvania are showing our elected officials that we want change, and we want it now. This epidemic, it stops with us. Now, here I have some young change makers who have been in this fight for almost as long as I have. Sarah Traveras and Jordan Rivera from Hostos Elementary.
Hello everyone, my name is Jordan Rivera. As an 8th grade student about to start high school, I am deeply concerned about the increasing gun violence in our communities. Every day we hear about shootings and lives lost. It's terrifying and it's unacceptable. We cannot sit back and wait for more tragedies to happen. We need our legislators to take urgent action to address this crisis. We need stronger gun violence prevention laws to keep firearms out of the wrong hands. We need better access to mental health resources to prevent violence before it occurs. Our safety should be their top priority, as we are the future of our society. Let's demand change and hold our leaders accountable. Together we can make our communities safer for everyone.
Yes. Hola a todos, mi nombre es Sara Taveras. Como estudiante de 8º grado, a punto de comenzar la secundaria, estoy profundamente preocupada por el creciente problema de la violencia armada en nuestras comunidades. Todos los días escuchamos sobre tiroteos y vidas perdidas. Es aterrador y es inaceptable. No podemos quedarnos de brazos cruzados y esperar que ocurran más tragedias. Necesitamos leyes más estrictas sobre el control de armas para mantener las armas de fuego fuera de manos equivocadas. Necesitamos un mejor acceso a recursos de salud mental para prevenir la violencia antes de que ocurra. Nuestra seguridad debería de ser su máxima prioridad. Ya que somos el futuro de nuestra sociedad, exigimos un cambio y responsabilicemos a nuestros líderes. Juntos podemos hacer que nuestras comunidades sean más seguras para todos. Thank you. Now please welcome Nicole Molinaro.
The children and youth absolutely give me so much hope. I will tell you what, it is hot up here, and not just because it's 90 degrees, because we are mad. I am here today, and I am honored to be here today on behalf of Women's Center and Shelter of Greater Pittsburgh, the Pennsylvania Coalition Against Domestic Violence, and all survivors of intimate partner violence or domestic violence, and most importantly, those whose voices cannot be here today because they are victims of intimate partner violence-related homicide. Years ago, when we talked about intimate partner violence, guns weren't mentioned much. These days, though, there is an absolutely inextricable link between domestic violence and guns. And it happens on a personal level and on a community level. So let's tackle the personal level first. When there is a gun present in an intimate partner violence situation, a woman is 5 times more likely to be killed. It is the greatest risk factor for homicide. In addition, over 1 million women in the United States have survived being shot by their partner or ex-partner. I will never forget a client. I'll call her Janae, not her real name. When she came into shelter straight from the hospital after her abuser has shot her multiple times. She talked about him cleaning his guns and doing what she called just staring a dead stare at her. And she knew he meant, I can kill you. And she was terrified. He would threaten her, he would hit her with the gun, and she was understandably too scared to leave. One day he shot her, and he kept shooting. It was an absolute miracle that she lived. But years later, she is still impacted every single day by this. And after several surgeries, after so much physical therapy and so much mental health therapy, at her current age of 30, she will never walk again without a cane, and she still startles at loud noises. Let's turn to the community level. More than half of mass shootings, actually 60% in the United States, are linked to family violence. And we all know how much mass shootings have increased just in the last 6 years. I know anybody in this crowd could say that, 225%. But policy, as we know, can make an impact. States with stronger laws see 63% fewer mass shootings on average than those with weaker laws. Don't we want Pennsylvania to take action proven to reduce homicides? Yes. And it's well known that family violence is one of the most dangerous calls for police officers, with 22% of all killings of police officers linked to family violence. So if you're a lawmaker who truly backs the blue, why not pass laws that protect law enforcement officers and those experiencing intimate partner violence? In October 2018, then Governor Tom Wolf signed a bipartisan bill into law called Act 79, addressing the dangerous intersection of guns and domestic violence. The law requires those who are subjects of final protection from abuse orders to surrender their guns within 24 hours. This was a great improvement, and it helped. And it is absolutely not enough because it can take too long in a volatile domestic violence situation, and the action is left up to the victim who, like Janae, is scared for their lives. If you're worried about a family member who might hurt themselves or others with a gun, like Janae's family was, like Janae's in-laws were, there are few actions in Pennsylvania that you can take. Extreme risk protection orders temporarily remove an individual's firearms. You can clap for that. Yeah. They temporarily remove an individual's firearms so they can get the help they need before it is too late. Extreme risk protection orders would add an important new tool for survivors or family members, especially considering how many suicides start with intimate partner violence-related homicides. In the 21 plus states that have passed IRPOs, it is estimated that 1 life is saved for every 10 to 20 removals. Do the math. All it leaves is the question is, how can we not take this simple action that saves so many lives? House Bill 1018 and Senate Bill 204 would create an extreme risk protection order for Pennsylvania residents. It's awaiting action in the Senate Judiciary Committee right now. A recent poll shows that 80% of Pennsylvanians support this proposal, including 70% of gun owners. That's because it's a basic, life-saving gun law. Damn. Get it on the floor. In closing, we know what saves lives. We just need to take action. We urge passing of life-saving laws like extreme risk protection orders. Let's take guns out of the hands of abusers. Thank you so much, and it's my honor to introduce Kristen Kreeman, trauma nurse and trauma program manager. Kristen? Awesome.
I can recall recently when we rushed to the trauma bay after hearing that the police were bringing in multiple victims. 2 gunshot wounds, then 2 more, one after the other, until the trauma bays were full of lives destroyed by violence. I watched an exhausted and defeated team who worked tirelessly to save the life in front of them, only for that life to succumb to the devastating injuries from gun violence. Just imagine staring at the young, unnamed person before you, now lifeless, and you hear something. Their phone starts to ring. You answer the phone, and it's a small voice of a confused young child looking for their mother who never came home. You know that in a very short time, the scared and anxious family will arrive, and the team will yet again have to provide the unbearable news that their loved one is dead. You also know that soon you will be taking them to the bedside to identify their loved one and to say their final farewell. You will have to listen once again to the screams of desperation, for the unthinkable has just rocked their world, and that world will never be the same again. But you have to hold strong while they crumble, as they are overcome with grief, even though on the inside your own heart is breaking. But you bury it deep because they need you, and you have to keep going because your shift is not over yet, and there are still other patients that need your care. My name's Kristen Kreeman, and I have been a trauma nurse for over 29 years. I'm a trauma program manager and a member of many national organizations, and I'm here today because I am tired of watching the trauma teams try to prepare for the onslaught of penetrating traumas that just keep coming to our trauma centers. Gun violence is not just a Philly thing, it's a statewide and national crisis. The violence is infiltrating our healthcare centers. Turnover rates in the emergency departments across the U.S. have skyrocketed. With 29 years of experience, national organizations and trauma systems are not asking me to speak about clinical topics. They're asking me to speak on weapons safety, screening, and violence prevention. Clinical teams are struggling to stay in healthcare. They just can't continue to be exposed to the violence without being affected to their core. Albert Einstein said that the definition of insanity is when you keep doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. Something must change, and the time for change is now. We need to teach our youth that violence is not the answer. Life is valuable and a future is possible. We need laws that treat ghost guns like real guns and make access to weapons harder. Adults need to be held responsible for their weapons and store them safely so our youth can't bring them to our schools, communities, or our hospitals. We need to ban deadly devices that can create homemade machine guns and inflict mass carnage, and stop gun trafficking that is killing our people. Lawmakers in this building, the power is in your hands. End the insanity, end gun violence. I now would like to introduce Dr. Eleanor Kaufman.
Thanks, Kristen. Thanks, everybody. I am Eleanor Kaufman. I'm a trauma surgeon, and I do not want to follow all these powerful words. But I was just thinking maybe it's fitting that I'm here at the end, because by the time someone has to see me, it means we've already missed way too many opportunities. As a trauma surgeon in Philadelphia, I have the privilege of working closely with the survivors of firearm violence and the families and the loved ones who feel the effects alongside them. And all too often, like you just heard, I also have the responsibility to tell a parent, a sibling, or a child that their loved one was shot and killed and that our best efforts could not bring them back. So I'm here just in witness to the physical and the emotional suffering that they bear. As a state, as a country, as a society, we have let this happen. We are responsible for the danger of gun violence in our communities, and we are responsible for ending it. People say it's not the guns. And in the way, they're right. You know, without guns, we would still have inequality. We would still have poverty. We would still have anger. We would still have depression. We would still have moments of crisis, and we would still have violence. But as a surgeon, I know the profound damage that bullets can do to human bodies and human lives. Far more than fists, more than knives, any other common weapon. If the teenager that I took care of recently had turned and run when he saw a fist fight was breaking out, he would be fine. He turned and run when he heard shots fired, and he will be fine, but he's got a bullet in his leg and he's got a shattered tibia. He's got weeks of physical recovery ahead of him, at a minimum, but I think he'll be fine. The young woman I took care of later that same week, she also turned and ran from a shooting. She wasn't the target, but she won't be fine. Her sister, her brother, her child, they won't ever be fine. I'm so proud to be part of a team that offers the best in medical care to patients at times of crisis, and it's just not always enough to heal the wounds of gun violence. We need to stop these injuries before they start, and this starts right here. This starts with our laws. We can keep dangerous weapons out of the hands of people who can't have them. And we can keep, like you've been hearing, the most dangerous weapons and modifications to weapons and printed weapons out of Pennsylvania entirely. Thank you again. Thank you for being here. Let me welcome Adam back to close us out.
It's hard to close after that, but I keep reflecting on two things. One, last week, some of the gun extremist organizations held their own rally here. And it was tiny compared to this. And I have to tell you, and you can look at the pictures online, and I have to tell you, there is a reason. We aren't cities, we aren't some small set of people, we are Pennsylvania. We are a movement that represents every cornerstone of this, every part of this state. We have people here from more than 45 counties. More than 3/4 of the legislative districts. We have fathers and mothers, the doctors and the nurses, the faith leaders and the survivors, the gun owners and the veterans, and so many more here who've said we're sick and tired of this. The second thing I want to leave you with is whatever happens in there when we go back inside, and we're about to go back inside and watch gun safety votes happen on the floor, and I believe we will move some of them to the Senate. Today is not the end of our movement. It is another step along a long road. Too long of a road that will include more people joining the groups of survivors who feel the pain of this crisis. Too long of a road who will see more doctors trained to take bullet wounds out of people, and too long of a road where more faith leaders will have to preside over a funeral of someone lost to this crisis. And too many more empty tables around our holidays, our gatherings, our vacations, or just a simple lunch. But I believe that if we work together, I know if we work together, that we can make along that road a little bit quicker. And we can save lives. And that's what this movement is about. So now for the logistics, just a little bit of logistics, less exciting, I know. We're gonna head back inside. We have rooms set up to watch because we will not all fit in the gallery. That's not a problem. That's a good thing. There are seats in the gallery for some folks, whoever gets there. Mostly, though, I would love to leave space, I will say, for the survivors, the youth, the doctors, the faith leaders to be up there especially. And then we have rooms down by the cafeteria set up with TVs and a few other overflow rooms. This fight isn't done also. We need to keep up the pressure today till we get that vote across the finish line. And so let's head back in. And when you do, just a note, wait, you might not all want to head in this entrance. You might end up sticking in that line for about an hour. I'm going to walk around back. Folks might want to walk all the way around the Capitol. I know it seems a little far, but I promise you for some, you'll get into the AC a little quicker. So if you can, maybe the youth, walk in and walk around. And thank you so much for being here today.